Fabian Schonholz, NBC Universal. I work in the games and digital platforms group. I have a small data science team, and our job is to turn data into operations type of things and activities in games. We also do this for other areas of the company as well. Now, the other interesting thing is that I'm used to having a laptop here, so having a prompter is a new thing. Okay, let's get started. We have not that much time. All right, so what is live operations about? Live operations is about experimentation. If you don't experiment, you're not really live operating a game. Just looking at data and seeing what happened yesterday and not thinking about tomorrow, that is not live operations. So your systems should be ready for that. Our focus is on A/B testing, and you can do A, B, C, D, whatever type of configuration you like or you need, depending on what you're testing. But the important part is that you always need to have a group that you don't run anything against to compare. How do you know that your test succeeded? How do you know that what you're thinking is actually working? So you have the control group, and that's how you're going to measure your results. And then the way you really do this thing is that you look at the data, you run a test, you observe, you come up with a hypothesis, and then you repeat the test based on that hypothesis, and you expand, right? If it's successful, then you go to another group. And if that remains the same case, now you can go to the rest of the population. But you're going to do this in terms of behaviors. For example, everybody that spent $5 on your game. All right. My point of view is that the ultimate goal of live operations is automation, no humans involved. You basically build your backend, your data backend, and everything runs through that. Now, I'm going to give you an example where this will be illustrated. It's very silly, it's very simple. But for example, you, what's your name? Marius. What time do you play games? Yeah, during the day. At lunchtime. So if I send you a push notification at 8 p.m., you're going to ignore it. It's a complete waste of time. More importantly, it's a complete waste of your time. But if I send you a push notification, if I try to communicate with you and try to elicit certain behaviors from you at lunch, then we'll be more successful and will bring value to the players. And the other thing with live operations that I think is super important is lifetime value. And the reason lifetime value is important is because it enables you to understand how much to spend and where to spend for UA. All right, these are the ops challenges that you have. Obviously, retention and churn being topmost. Conversion, because you still need to support yourselves and improve the game and reinvest in the game. And that's how you are going to bring value to your players. Engagement and re-engagement. And I always wrestle with the last one. Is LTV indeed a basic problem, a basic challenge in live operations? There are days that I wake up and I say yes. There are days that I wake up and I say LTV is only a result of live operations. All right, let's talk a little bit about retention and churn. First and foremost, you want to know who quit, right? So if you know who quit, then you can ask the question, why did they churn? And talking about having systems that are ready, you need to be able to do in-game surveys. The question here about surveys, you're not going to be able to survey somebody that quit unless you figure out a way for them to come back to the game so you can survey them. So you're going to look at who is going to quit, and we use predictive analytics for that. And I'll show you a slide that there are some graphs, and we'll talk about that. So the ones that you're detecting that are going to probably quit over the next week, those are the guys that you can survey. And you can say, okay, I can see that you're going to quit. Why are you quitting? Now, however you structure those questions, designing a survey is not that simple because you really want them not to quit. You don't want to say, hey, I know you're going to be gone. What's up, right? That doesn't work. So you need to be a little bit smarter than that. Predictive churn, really the most optimal really is about 1 week. So you predict on Sunday who is going to quit over the next week, and then you do that week on, week off. And you can also do it 2 weeks. The challenge here really is how quickly can you react to your results. Some cases, a week, you can react just fine. In some cases, you really need more time. But think in terms of the life cycle of a player that is about to quit. You want to get to them as soon as possible. So 1 week is really ideal. And again, A/B testing is the best way to figure out how to increase retention, prevent churn. And here are a few examples that are super simple. You can offer discounts, additional currency that they're forced to use or lose, new levels, items, and if an items or mechanics, what are the mechanics that you should change to modify player's behavior. All right, so this is your standard retention graph. This is not real data. I had one of my guys work with me to come up with data that we can then display in the tools that we use. So we like to have initial users so we can compare and contrast basically the number of installs and how retention happens in the context of the installs. And we do 1 day, D1, D3, D7, all the way through D30. Now, the top graph is who quit. These are the guys that they are gone. And normally for us, churn is anybody that has not played in the last 2 weeks. The bottom is actually who is going to quit and the probabilities. So we have from 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, so on and so forth. So the guys on would be your left. Yeah, right there. Those are 90 to 100% going to quit. Those guys are gone. So the question here is, with all of these buckets, what is it that you do with them? My opinion, if they are 90 to 100%, don't waste your time. If you have another game, cross-promote them to that other game. And if not, you're going to waste your money. Those guys are gone. So try to keep them within the network by not spending so much. Now, the interesting thing with predictive analytics, this is mathematics. You can either prove it or disprove it. So we have, with every single one of our models, we have an accuracy table. And these are each one of these columns is really a date, a particular week. So you can see that when you're going to the 90 to 100% probability of quitting, is 95% accurate, meaning that everybody that we predicted, 95% of them are gone. It's a simple calculation. And as expected, predicting on the lower end is very hard, so the accuracy is not very good. All right, let's talk about conversion for a little bit. Similar to churn, you want to know who converted. The reason you want to know who converted and at what rate is because there are behaviors that are very inherent to converters. So you want to detect that. You want to know what they're doing, what is the game progression, right? And if you can funnel other players through the same game progression, then your probability of conversion increases. So if you have a converter and a non-converter, and their behaviors are similar, then that tells you that there may be a problem in the game or maybe a problem in the channels that each one of these guys came from. There are all sorts of questions. But if the behaviors are completely different, right, and you have most of the non-converters going through the same behaviors and the converters through different behaviors, then you know that you gotta figure out a way of funneling them that way. Just as in Churn, you wanna know who will convert as well. And then you also wanna know the guys that are willing to convert, but you haven't given them a reason to convert. It's not just changing their behaviors or moving them from one path to the other, but there is a value that you're not giving them. There is something there that they're playing, they're not churning, they're engaged, they like the game, they're doing what you want them to do, but they are not converting. So you should ask the question, what do I need to do to help them? And most important, who? The who is key. All right. So again, as everything, you have the blue is the ones that converted, and then the rate of conversion is the green line. Nothing interesting there. Now this is interesting in the sense that this is the way we basically showcase who needs help converting. Now, in some cases, you're going to have games that people convert early on, and then they don't ever convert, but they can be also helped. And in some cases, it's as I said before. So the green areas are the areas where folks in that group, in that cohort, are more willing to convert if you give them just a little push. Maybe 5% discount, whatever it is. Extra coins, something that leads them to not only engage more, but get emotionally more attached to the game. All right, engagement and re-engagement, this is all about questions. First of all, what is the right churn period to study? I have figured out that it's about a week, but that may change from game to game. In mobile, there are particular dynamics. That's why a week is a good number, and most of the games that we do are mobile. But PC or console, in the case of moving more onto live operations, it may take longer. So you need to figure out what is that engagement period. When does engagement dry up? Who should be targeted? Sometimes you go, okay, this guy churned, and now I want to, do a re-engagement campaign. Obviously, if the game is no longer installed, forget it. And in some cases, you have problems with privacy concerns. In particular, GDPR is a little bit of an interesting situation. It's actually pretty cool, to be honest. It's protecting consumers quite well. But it does present problems when you're talking about re-engagement. And then there is the concept of organic re-engagement. And organic re-engagement is, and it happens to me all the time. I like to play certain games, and then another game comes up, and I go, ooh, look, shiny, right? Squirrel. And I go and I start playing that other game, and I forget about the other game, right? The game that I was playing before. And then all of a sudden I'm playing with my phone and I go, what about that other game that I was playing, right? So it's pretty hard at the beginning when you have those behaviors. However, over time you can see those patterns. The folks that they come on for a month, then they leave for 3 months, then they come back on. So those are the guys that you don't spend any money or anything doing. You just let them do their thing. Now, you might change your mind and may decide to do something about it because you want to accelerate that re-engagement, and that's cool. But if you don't know who they are and what their behaviors are, you cannot make those decisions. So you got to understand that. And then again, you have to test the engagement loops all the time. You change the fatui, you change things, whatever it is. Don't just change them because you feel that it needs to be changed. Change it in a scientific manner, which is A/B testing. All right, some additional live operations problems. Again, LTV, which leads to UA. Events are cool. You can do a lot of testing in events, especially when you're talking about engagement, re-engagement, churn prevention, offers, and definitely in-game messaging, right? With in-game messaging, is you communicating with your customers, with your players. It's the best way that you can get feedback directly from them. And this is not feedback where you're gonna say, like a survey. That also can be an in-game message, but it's more about, hey, have you checked blah 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 blah, and you provide them with a link. So, and they do that. That is feedback.